Hi there, I'm Rene Lavalle and I'm the chef and co-owner of the Canteen in Little C in Dartmouth. And today I'm going to make for you my favorite summertime treat, the ultimate ice cream sandwich. We'll be using my brown butter chocolate chip cookie and filling it with a decadent vanilla ice cream. First, we have to make the cookies. That is the base. So I'm doing actually my take on a brown butter chocolate chip cookie. What I do is I brown my butter so it gets really nutty and full of caramel. But if you don't have the time or if you're a little too uneasy doing it, don't worry about it. So first I'm going to grab my butter. And basically when you brown it, you're just making it nice and nutty. It does really give off a beautiful caramel flavor. I'm going to pour it into my bowl. I have let it cool down a little bit. And you want to use all the little bits and pieces at the bottom because that's very important. To that, I'm going to add 2 cups of brown sugar. And I'm going to add 1 cup of white sugar. And all you want to do after this is just blend it until all your ingredients are incorporated. I'm going to turn this on, make a little noise. Now that my ingredients are incorporated, I'm going to add 4 egg yolks and 2 whole eggs. These beautiful farmer fresh eggs here from Nova Scotia. A little bit of vanilla paste just to give it that little sweetness. And we do have vanilla as well in the ice cream, but I do like the flavor of the vanilla on the vanilla. So about a teaspoon of that. A pinch of salt, always very important in baking, is a pinch of salt. And then what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to incorporate this and whip this with my paddle for about 3 to 4 minutes until it gets this beautiful frothy caramel color. I've had this going for about 3 to 4 minutes and it's basically like a beautiful caramel color. It smells delicious. It smells so nutty and rich in here. So all I'm going to do now is add 3 cups of flour. Be careful with your flour. I always get it everywhere, especially if you're turning your KitchenAid back on. So I've got my 3 cups of flour. I've got a teaspoon and a half of baking soda. And I'm just going to quickly just incorporate this together. Now that everything's been incorporated, I'm going to add my chocolate chips. And I'm using these beautiful dark chocolate Calais, a Calabo chocolate. I think that when you use really good quality chocolate, you end up with a really good quality product. So I'm going to put that right in there. And at this point, all you want to do is just mix them, and then we'll get going. This looks great. I have my oven preheating at 375. And I've got my parchment lined baking sheets. And what I like to do is I use a tablespoon actually to measure my cookies. That way I know that they're all the same size. In the past, I've used like an ice cream scoop, or you can use just a spoon, but as long as they're all the same size, so that when you make those ice cream sandwiches, you don't have a big cookie on the top and a small cookie on the bottom, or vice versa. And all I want to do is just scoop some and then put it right on my parchment paper. Now these cookies bake at 375 for anywhere between, I say like 11 to 13 minutes, but a lot of this also depends on your oven. I know for my oven here at home, 11 seems to be the magic number. Once I pull these out of the oven, I'm going to show you actually the best trick to get the best chocolate chip cookie, because this is what we do at work. And it seems to work really, really well, especially if you're making these for ice cream sandwiches.
Hi, my name's Veronica from Vermeulen Farms in Milford, Nova Scotia. We milk Holsteins. I farm with my 3 brothers.
All right, the house smells amazing because these chocolate chip cookies are about to come out of the oven. But now I'm gonna show you my secret trick. Cookies come out, beautiful and crackled, but here it is. You have to smack it down 3 times to get the perfect chocolate chip cookie. Now what I like to do is I like to let them just cool down on the baking sheet for about 10 minutes, and then I put them onto my wire rack. While these are cooling down, we're gonna get our ice cream going. It's probably a better idea to make the ice cream base the day before because you want it to be fully chilled before you put it in your ice cream machine. So I actually have some in my fridge, but we're gonna make this one together. I've got 4 egg yolks, and to my egg yolks, I'm gonna add 1.5 cups of sugar, and then I'm just gonna mix that up quickly. Now, sometimes I've even played with the ratios of sugar. Sometimes I find that I like it a little less sweet, but you can do what you like. So I'm just gonna mix this together first before adding my ingredients because I want the sugar and the egg yolks to be incorporated before I add my milk and my cream. Now that my egg yolks and my sugar are incorporated, I have 2 cups milk and 1 cup cream. I've even done it where I've done 2 cups cream, 1 cup milk, and I've also done it all 35% cream. It all just makes a sort of richer ice cream. All again depends on your flavors. Sometimes I find that my kids really like it when it's like that super creamy, rich ice cream. Now I'm gonna add a pinch of salt because salt is very important. Again, in all baking, a pinch of salt just brings out all the flavors, and some vanilla. I use this beautiful vanilla paste that I get from one of my local suppliers. I just find that it has a lot of beautiful flavor. And all you want to do now is cook this on low heat. You want to make sure to stir, and you want to bring it up to 170 degrees Fahrenheit. Now that our eggs and beautiful dairy here from Nova Scotia have cooked together to form this beautiful, almost custard-like anglaise, sometimes I call it, it's reached its temperature, I'm going to strain it through a fine mesh sieve. That way, if there are any cooked egg particles in there, you catch them, they don't make their way into the ice cream. I like to refrigerate mine overnight. If you're in a hurry, you can actually put it on an ice bath, so you can fill a larger bowl with cold water and ice and keep stirring it, which would take about an hour. But to be like the perfect ice cream, it's best to have it overnight. Now I'm gonna get my bowl and we're gonna churn it. Time to churn. I have this ice cream base that I made earlier that's been in the fridge, and you just have to follow sort of like the manufacturer's directions because everybody's got a different ice cream machine. I have this one where my bowl needs to be in the freezer for at least 24 hours. So all I want to do is put it on low, add my base, and it takes about 25 to 30 minutes. Then I put it in a container and I freeze it until I'm ready to use it. right, so the ice cream is churned. The cookies have been cooled off. And this is ice cream that I made earlier, and I pulled it out of the freezer just to let it soften in the fridge for about half an hour. The fun part is filling these. Now you can fill them as thick or as thin as you want. It's all up to you. So what I like to do is take one and just spoon on my softened ice cream. Then once I'm done, I usually wrap them up in saran wrap individually, put them in the freezer, and let my kids or my husband or anybody that comes over enjoy. Ice cream sandwiches. See how easy that was? And this is going to be one of your favorite treats this summer, using that creamy, delicious vanilla ice cream and those brown butter chocolate chip cookies. This is a treat for anybody. All right, well, hopefully everybody enjoyed that video. And, you know, I've had many people ask me if those ice cream sandwiches are available. I have one left in my freezer, so if you know where I live, you may be lucky. But I would love to introduce to you right now all the amazing people that make the dairy here in Nova Scotia, that produce it and make all these delicious things. We have Jolene and Lockie from Folly River Farms. Hey, guys.
How you doing?
Welcome on this beautiful day. I've also got Veronica Vermeulen from Vermeulen Farms. Hello.
Hey.
She's minus her 3 brothers today, but that's
right.
And then we also have Ron from Masstown Creamery.
Good afternoon.
He's had a busy day. Hello, Ron.
Hi.
So thank you for joining us. This is great. So did everybody get a chance to watch the video?
Yes.
All right. Well, I was going to say, for those of you that know where I live, there's one left. I know, Ron, you asked me the other day. I was like, I do have one left in my freezer. So I can hear my kids working. I can hear my kids lurking downstairs. So you never know. They may offend. But again, you know, thank you for joining us. But my first question that I wanted to ask is actually to Veronica, because you're a 3rd generation farmer or dairy farmer.
Yes.
And I come from I come from like rural Quebec, where there's like tons of dairy farms.
Yes.
My thing is, I was always fascinated by like what your typical day was on the farm, because I know that like all the kids that I went to school with would start at like 5 a.m. But is this true? Because I know there's a bit of a catch when it comes to your farm that didn't exist back in my day.
So yes, actually, that's exactly when I start my day, is 5 a.m. It's funny that you knew the exact time. So it's a little bit different than maybe back in the day, because the first thing I do when I wake up is check my cameras and see if there's any new baby calves. So I have cameras on my cows that are due in the next 2 weeks. So that's like one of the first things I do is when I wake up is see if there's any new baby calves. And then normally I have a coffee and kind of wake up a little bit more. And then when I go to the barn, I have to pick the manure off the pack with a pitchfork, but then I get into a skid steer and clean the barn out. And then I go on and I feed some calves some bottle milk. And then I feed other calves that are older grain and hay, and just do general chores, getting organized, pressure washing, and things like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Because I know that, Jolene, you and Lockie have something that I've never heard of. It's like a robotic, like basically milks the cows. Like I always have the picture, I think most of us do, like, someone sitting on an upturned bucket, sort of like, going to town. But obviously that doesn't happen for you guys.
No, 3 years ago we installed Lavalle Robotic Milkers. So the cow goes on their own 24 hours a day it's available and gets milk. So it's quite different. We used to start our day at about 4 a.m. before we had robots, and be 10 hours of milking throughout the day by the time we milk them 3 times. And now it just runs 24/7. We have 2 of them, so we milk about 95 cows on the 2 robots. And it's voluntary. They go when they want. So
See, that's crazy because I remember like the biggest thing that I always learned growing up, because like I said, I grew up in rural Quebec, was farmers never had a day off, especially dairy farmers, because cows don't just say, guess what? Oh, we're going on vacation. I'll just wait until you come back in 2 weeks to be milked, because that doesn't happen, obviously.
no, that doesn't happen. No.
It doesn't happen. Well, I'm glad that things have changed a lot. I mean, that's for sure. And then Ron, you're on the other end of it all. You process all these delicious things that come from these farmers.
Yeah, no, that's correct. We receive deliveries several times a week from dairy farmers, Nova Scotia, coming from our neighboring farms, bringing us the raw milk. We've got a production staff that separates, pasteurizes, and homogenizes into your normal milk flavors, 1%, 2% skim and whole. We make some chocolate milk. We've just started making some ice cream. We make butter from scratch, of course. And then we have a wonderful retail division that is slicing, packaging, grinding up the cheese that we make, as well as that we buy from around the world, and pride ourselves on having a lovely world outlook on cheese, and some really spectacular cheeses made by our own staff now. So it's really quite entertaining.
Well, it's crazy because there's over 200 licensed dairy farmers in Nova Scotia. So, I mean, I know there's a lot of processing places, but that's a lot of milk, and that's obviously like a lot of cheese. But Veronica, how many cows, because I'm actually very curious, how many cows do you have on the farm? Like sort of like around.
Okay. So on the farm that I manage and work at, because me and my brothers are kind of separate, I have 157 today.
157. Yeah. And Lockie and Jolene, how many do you have at any given day?
Any given day, there's 110. That includes like milking in cows that are dried off, waiting to calve again to start milking again.
So, and I'm like, I always wonder, how much would an average cow produce on a day? Like how many liters?
So on our farm right now, our average is around 40 liters per day per cow.
Oh. So Ron, that's a lot of things that you have to process.
Yes, yeah.
And I mean, I'm always like curious because Veronica, you're obviously 3rd generation, and Lockie and Jolene, you're from a dairy farm in Cape Breton, and Lockie, you didn't come from a dairy farm. But how do you feel about doing this as your day-to-day job? I mean, Lockie and Jolene, seeing as you've sort of combined forces, what do you guys think about that?
Well, I enjoy the day-to-day because it's a new adventure every day, I guess. There's no 2 days are the same. I guess I kind of enjoy that, where there's new challenges and new opportunities out there. So,
yeah, I never really thought I would be marrying a guy who wanted to farm. that was a shocker to me when he made that revelation, and I still married him, even though I grew up in that whole scene myself. But I come from a long line of Dutch immigrants, and dairy farming was, what they did. So I think that it's just a natural fit. We love the lifestyle, and yes, you work hard, but there's nothing like the end of the day when your kids are all sitting around with you and everybody's put in a good day's work, but they've learned something too. There's a lot of learning that goes on in agriculture. There's a lot of science and a lot of technology, and it's feeling when they want to be involved, because that you're doing something that's good for them too. So
true. And Veronica, obviously you have 3 brothers, so you guys are all obviously farming. And do you plan to carry on to the 4th generation of farming?
Definitely. Yeah. Actually, we all have kids, me and my three brothers. So we always kind of talk about when the kids take over, but it's definitely enjoyable. There's sometimes I actually do have days off. And I do take vacation, I'll be like, I'll be the first to admit that because some farmers won't admit it. But, and it's funny because I'll be like, why aren't I happy today? I had a great day. And it's like, I didn't see cows today. Like, cows are just so enjoyable to be around. They're really gentle, big creatures. They're really nice. So I definitely enjoy working with cows. And, my brother is probably second to cows. Like, cows are here, my brothers are here. So,
So I've heard about like the dairy farmer's typical day, but Ron, what would your typical day be like at Masstown? Like, I know earlier we were talking, you said, 6 a.m. saw the first signs of life sort of like creeping up into the parking lot.
Yeah, no, it's like a light switch went on today. Things are much, much busier for sure. And I would say I don't always get the glamour job of making the milk and turning out the beautiful products. I began this process 4 or 5 years ago with a vision from our owner, Laurie Jennings, and moved through the regulatory and a lot of door knocking and trying to understand how you create a dairy. And then along with Trevor, our on-site carpenter, somehow we ended up with a building with a dairy inside and products on the shelf. So it's never a dull moment. And every day that everything goes smoothly, you just sort of nod your head and say thank you, and on you go. We have on-site lab, of course, for testing and follow all those rules and requirements. So there's definitely always something different.
Awesome. Well, I'm also, everyone's got like an interesting day. I mean, I know mine usually starts at like, sort of like yours, but not, taking care of animals and basically just going into work and, taking care of my staff, which sometimes are like animals. I shouldn't say that, but, so you all have cows, but what do the cows eat? I mean, we always we drive through rural Nova Scotia. Obviously, we see like the blue cow on milk products, Canadian milk products. So we always know that those are amazing milk products. But what do the actual cows here in Nova Scotia, what would they eat? I don't know who wants to start with that, Veronica or Lockie and Julie. I mean, I know they eat grass and hay, but what else will they eat?
But here are the cinnamon buns.
Eat what?
Cinnamon buns.
Oh,
I wish. You go ahead.
Yeah, so our cows, their diet, we have a nutritionist actually that balances our ration for us. And in there we have probably 60% consists of forage, and the forage is in the form of corn silage and grass silage. So we take the corn and the grass and we just chop it fine and we put it on a pile and cover it in plastic so it ensiles and it ferments. And that'll allow it to be more available to the cows, and it actually keeps that way. We also have ground corn, which we grow on farm, and barley. We try to grow most of our own grains. We do buy some in, whatever we can't supply. And then we buy in canola meal for protein and mineral that is balanced by our nutritionist. So it's what are they? They're eating about 45 to 50 kilos of feed a day per cow right now.
Wow. And like for a cow to have its own nutritionist is pretty amazing, actually. Because I think a lot of people don't realize that, especially with, dairy in Canada, is that it's antibiotic free. So, I mean, I know a lot of people don't usually know that. But Veronica, what would your cows usually eat?
So it would be similar. I was laughing when I was watching your video and you were like, I want to use really good quality chocolates to make the cookies, because that's a lot like making milk. So we have to use really good quality feed in order to get quality milk. And it's all measured. Like they test our milk and they see how much butterfat, how much proteins, and how much other solid. And based on that, like you get paid. So it's really important to us to have good quality milk and in order to do that, you need good quality ingredients. Big thing about that is cutting the grass early and testing the grass to make sure the grass is perfect for the cow. And it is quite complicated. Like I am definitely not an expert. And so that's why we have nutritionists, because they test our grass and then they can kind of make a whole meal plan for the cow. So, but it's definitely like the quality of ingredients is especially important to have good quality milk, but also to have like a really healthy cow, which is what we're all aiming for.
That's awesome. Like, and these are like things that, you know, I know a lot of us don't really think about or know about, but, you know, for me, I know I'm always thinking, you know, what am I, you know, what are the animals or what are the products that we're bringing in? What have they had? And making sure that it's always, you know, the best. And it's amazing to hear that, you know, for both of you as farmers, and I know Ron, you as well at the creamery, you know, you want to use the best of the best to put out this amazing product, right? So Ron, what is your favorite product to make?
Well, I guess personal favorite right now would be the fact that we've just been authorized to produce our own ice cream.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And so we still haven't offered it for sale, but there's been a fair amount of sampling over the last couple of months. It's painstaking, and you take the time to get it right, and somebody's got to do it, right? And chocolate milk, of course. I've never outgrown chocolate milk, even since I was much littler.
Jolene, what about you? What would be your favorite dairy product? Or I know, like, again, I'm always like referencing, like when I was a kid, I'd go to my friend, they had a dairy farm, and she would literally, we'd drink the milk, you know, warm, you know, and I'd never had that before. So, you know, is that still something that dairy farmers do?
That's definitely a trademark of people who came to visit us growing up as well, is that they got to have, you know, the milk straight from the cow kind of thing, not literally, but pretty close to it. Yeah, I guess for me, it's all about the cheese. You know, there's just so many different ways you can enjoy dairy in different cheeses. And I think that, you know, one of the treats for our kids that they enjoy is poutine, which probably, you know, is close to your heart. And that's something that you can experiment a lot with. And it's just a great way to incorporate dairy into a maybe not so healthy meal to make it a little more healthy and add a little calcium. So yeah, that's how I would. I don't know what I can guess what your favorite is. But
I'm thinking I can help Ron sample his ice cream, but needs any help.
just call us, Ron. Call us.
You produce curds, right, at the creamery?
Yes. Actually, I wasn't familiar with curds myself, but I'd always heard from my wife. Grew up in Quebec, and when they started to produce the curds here about 3 years ago, I was floored by the number of people that started to look at our cheese schedule and knew within the 10 or 15 minutes when those fresh curds would be coming out on the table. And it's huge. People love them.
They squeak.
Yes, they do. Yes.
There is, you know, I did, you know, when I do drive back home, which is very rare because of COVID, but there is a few cheese places that we would hit, and you have to get them hot and they have to squeak. If they don't squeak, they're no good. That's what I always say to my husband. The curds have to squeak. Veronica, what do you think makes Nova Scotia dairy unique? I mean, apart from all the other provinces here in Canada.
We are pretty tight knit, I would say, in Nova Scotia. Like, it's funny because I haven't actually met Jolene before, but when I saw her, I was like, I know her. Like, everyone knows each other in Nova Scotia, but it's a really good community in that we are all very progressive. Like, we are all very like a little bit competitive and a little bit innovative, and we want to continuously improve. So things like robotic milkers, things like, you know, different farming practices that maybe some people would be hesitant to adopt. It's like, I find a lot of the times with my neighboring farms, it's like, if there's a better way to do things, we're going to do it that way. And we're going to, you know, really be cutting edge on trying to be the best in technology and be the best with animal care. So I think in Nova Scotia, that is like probably one of our strengths. I've toured a lot of dairy farms, you know, across North America, and I'm always amazed to be like, wow, little Nova Scotia like is really on the ball with, you know, with the times. So.
And Lockie and Jolene, what about yourselves? What do you think is makes our sort of agriculture here, the dairy farming in Nova Scotia, so special?
For me, I would agree with Veronica 100%. And I think our size is actually something that we can celebrate. You know, you're not going to see 10,000 cow farms in Nova Scotia. You're going to see family owned operations all the way through the province. And so that's important to rural communities because we create jobs and, you know, we contribute. But it also speaks a little bit to how we manage these farms. And I think, you know, if you're following any of the climate change conversation, they're talking about the use of what they call regenerative agriculture, where we rotate crops and we do techniques that help the soil. And you see a lot of that in Nova Scotia anyway, just because of the way we farm. And so I think people can feel good about buying Nova Scotia products because, for the most part, we're doing the right things to protect the environment and to maintain good cow health.
That's great.
Makes sense.
Makes sense.
Ron, I mean, you know that you're unique out there at Masstown. I mean, where can we buy your products though, Ron? Do we have to go to the creamery itself? Because,
you actually have to travel to Masstown. Like all things made here, they're only available on site. We sell our products, of course, out of the creamery itself, out of the Masstown market itself, and even, of course, out of the Petro-Canada gas station here. But you do actually have to travel here. So we only actually disperse them across the road.
Okay, well, there you go. I guess that means I'll have to get into my car, you know, tomorrow, or maybe if they ever let me out of the kitchen again, I could make my way down to Masstown Market.
Exactly.
It's always a nice drive, and if that ice cream, you know, makes its way into the creamery this summer, you know, it's a good excuse to take the kids along, right?
Certainly.
And what do you think, you know, what do you want people to know about about Masstown Creamery? Is there something like in particular that you're very passionate about that you think, you know, you really want people to know?
Well, it all began with the belief that our local customers want good value at a good price. They want to know where their food comes from. And when you start to speak to them and they understand that they can walk down the street and pat the cow that they're getting their milk from, and that they do appreciate the local quality, the local relationships that it takes to put that product on the shelf, and they're willing to try our cheeses and give suggestions and encouragement. And you can stand there in the window and watch it all happen, basically. So it is unique. We're very small, of course, compared to major players, but it is 100% all Nova Scotian, and we can give you the backstory on it. So.
And Veronica, what do you think? What would you like everyone to know about your farm? What do you think makes it so special and so unique?
So unique. That's interesting. I think that what I would want everybody to know about my farm is that the cows are really well cared for. And maybe that's something most people already know, but it's always like a thing that it's like, I really care about my cows. And so I hope everybody knows that farmers care about their cows.
And do you name your cows? Do they have names? They all have names?
Yes.
And Lockie and Jolene, what about yourselves? What makes your farm so unique? And what makes it special to you?
For us, I think it's the fact that we bought from a non-family member. So that's always a little bit of a unique story, that we didn't inherit this business. We made a conscious decision to get into dairy farming and worked with another family to make that happen. So, you know, we're forever grateful for that family for allowing us to work alongside them. It's, you know, another thing people probably don't realize is the size of the capital investment to get into this business. And so, you know, it was a 7-year process of us working through the details of buying this business. And I think it's just a great news story that if you want to do something bad enough and you're willing to work for it, that you can make that happen. So that would be a little bit unique, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know for myself, you know, I envy you in a way for, you know, doing this because, you know, it's always, I think it's a labor of love for everybody, especially for, you know, the farmers. But I just had someone, how do you know if dairy products are local? Well, I always say, because, you know, I have worked with Dairy Farmers of Canada in the past, is that you always look for what? Does anybody know?
The blue cow.
The blue cow.
Yeah.
The blue cow. You always have to look for the blue cow. That way you know that your milk comes from Canada and it's from Dairy Farmers of Canada. And that's something that I even tell my kids. If they're going to the store, Mom, what am I supposed to look for? You're looking for the blue cow. Well, guys, I don't know if you have anything that you want to share with everybody? I mean, on this beautiful June 30th before, a bit of a break tomorrow. Veronica, other than, you've got 3 brothers and, and you've got some, there's going to be some kids and, third generation and hopefully as well.
I'm just adding to my grocery list so I can make those ice cream sandwiches. Those look so good.
Well, I appreciate, the time that you've taken. Ron, I swear I will make it out there this summer.
Wonderful.
It all depends on, everyone's schedule, but I know my kids would be pretty stoked. Every time we travel, we always stop by Masstown and pick up some cinnamon buns, amongst other things. And when do you think we'll be able to see that ice cream on the shelf down there or up there, over there?
Well, we're hopeful that it could be in as short a time as a week or 2.
Wow. Okay. Well then.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's getting very close. We have a small stockpile, but it hasn't made it out of the testing lab yet.
Well, what is the one flavor that everyone says is going to be the winner?
So far, it's a toss-up between the wild blueberry and the local strawberries, and made from scratch, of course. And I have to tell you, it does flavor burst. There's no 2 ways about it. So now, it has to have chocolate, or it doesn't matter. But I'm a minority.
Lucky and Jolene, if you had anything that you wanted to add to this, what would it be?
I guess don't be afraid to reach out to a farmer and ask questions. We constantly battle misinformation, and I feel that, we're not that far away from you in this province. So, ask a friend, find a farmer, and get the facts. That'd be all I would add.
How is it working together? I mean, I work with my husband. I mean, is there, people are always
full disclosure, I work off farm. I work at Dalhousie University exactly for that reason. No, I'm kidding. Not for that. But yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's, for me, it's always I'm like, we are together 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It's obviously we love what we do. And I can see that with all of you, that you're very passionate about what you do. But because Veronica, I'm assuming you work with your husband, he works on the farm?
No, he has a farm with his dad, and I am, untraditional. And I work for my father's farm, which is now me and my brother's.
Okay. Well, then maybe someday you'll be like Lockie and Jolie.
Maybe.
Yeah. Is there anything
I was just going to say, a lot of farm families somebody works off farm. That's quite the norm now. And that might be something that a lot of people also don't realize, is that it's like any family, dual incomes to raise kids are usually needed. And we started down the path when we were buying a farm, that I went to work, and I just continued doing that. And so it's all personal choice, right? I think that it's good for those who want to work on the farm. It's a great way to make a living and to have a life. And sometimes you do need to get that break. And I think that brings extra perspective too. So it's very individual, and you'll see a different scenario in every farm you go to.
Well, for
it makes your life easier.
Very interesting stories, which, hopefully everyone has taken something away today. And I certainly appreciate, I've learned a lot today, because, for me, it's usually just, you go to the store, or I get a supplier, and you open up your dairy product, and, and then that's it. But thank you very much, everybody. And
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the day. And if you only knew how much milk was consumed here at my house, and 35% cream and butter, you'd probably be appalled. But, I appreciate it.
Keep it up. I
know it really is a labor of love. So, I say thank you to all of you, and, go pet a cow for me later on. And Ron, I'll be there someday. And
wonderful.
Veronica, I hope tomorrow morning when you look at your camera that there may be some baby calves.
Definitely.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Take care, everyone.
Nice to meet you.
Bye now.